Hey, everybody. Welcome to the archive where we strive to tell interesting LARP stories and preserve our history. Today, I have Sir Jynx Mercades out of the Kingdom of the Crystal Groves here as my guest today. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing just fine. You did kind of botch the last name. Everyone does it. It's Mercades.
Mercades. Okay. So I said it like the car. It's not like the car.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's not at all. Like Mercadian Mask from Magic the Gathering.
Cool. All right. So Sir Jynx Mercades. There we go. Out of Kingdom of the Crystal Groves. We're so glad to have you on. So I have never met you before, never fought with you before, never really interacted with you too much until Facebook Messenger just a couple of weeks ago as we were kind of setting this interview up. So give me the 10,000 foot view of your LARP career. How'd you start? When'd you start? What games you play? Just kind of give me the overview, and then we'll go back in and pick some of it apart as we go.
Oh man, this is a pretty long one. So my earliest LARP days were actually before the internet, when we had BBS's bulletin board systems up, and you would call those and you'd play the door games like Lords of the Red Dragon, Usurper, a bunch of the old games. My foray into LARP was beginning to get my feet wet in second edition AD&D. I ended up calling a friend of mine. Well, I say a friend, but he was called the Mad Hatter. I don't know his real name. I think it's Dave. Anyway, I called Dave's BBS, and there was somebody on there named Dave's BBS, and somebody on there named Snicker Furfoot was there. You may know him from such inventions as the Amtgard Atlas. He was the first guy to be like, "Hey, we do this thing every Sunday where it's like D&D but live action." And I said, "Go on." And he said, "You get to hit people and not get in trouble." I said, "Full stop. You have me right there. I'll be out this Sunday." And I did. I went out that Sunday, bruised and dislocated this very finger that I'm wiggling right now, and was hooked. I had to have more. It was everything I had ever wanted in my life. I could hit people and not go to jail. And that's really what was the sinker for me. Everything else was icing on the cake. The LARP career has been a very sordid tale, depending on who you talk to. I started in the Barony of Shadowvale in 1994-95. That is now Crimson Basin under the Kingdom of Burning Lands. I can remember when there was 7, 8 kingdoms. There was anyway. We've blown up.
Because now there's high 20s, right? We have 25 kingdoms or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. I can't keep count of them anymore. I used to be able to name them right off. I had everything memorized, but not so much anymore. So after Shadowvale, I played there for a time, played in Burning Lands, played in Dragonspine proper for a time. I checked out some friends in the Pacific Northwest. I played in the Duchy, I think there's still a Duchy, of Shrouding Mist. Got to know a couple of the locals out there, Show, Downfall, Cyric, Dogboy. A lot of the names that are now, people are like, who? When I was coming up, these are the guys, these were the guys for that particular area. Every area had one. But I joined the military for about 4 years. Well, I'm more than 4, like 13, but 4 of them were spent overseas, and ESAM became a thing. The Electric Samurai. Everyone and their mom was on there, and those are the days of ESAM love. You better come with spell check, your facts, and they better be in order and correct, or you will be flamed to no end. It was considered proper customs and courtesies to flame someone. I mean, get in them about their punctuation, and then we would see each other, and then we would just act like it was perfectly okay, and I thought it was hilarious. But, I came back stateside, and I got involved in the Kingdom of Golden Plains for a long time, 5-ish, 6-ish years. Became an integral part of that kingdom, solved a few problems out there. And the big push was, that's where I got knighted. Gathering of the Crowns. We changed that name. I'm sorry. I apologize for anyone out there who was like, hey, you. Gathering of the Crowns, 2008, during the big giant downpour. It flooded the day that I was knighted.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I got knighted, and there was a minor emergency. I felt awesome. That's sarcasm. I did not. Everyone got out of that situation okay. After that, more military. I moved out to Dover, Delaware, and a park called Bandit Flats East there. I helped start that. 2013, out of the military, I started Blackthorn with a few very close friends and my loving wife. And here we are today. Just Flame. I got a whole bouquet of roses, couple of lions, pride of them, I should say. Probably, I forget. I think it's 7. I stopped counting words a long time ago. Like, it's bad form to do that. Oh, okay. Well, I can count to 10. That's what matters, right? So a bunch of silly pieces of paper that says I did things later. They gave me a flame belt, it downpoured, and I get to now take squires. That's the extent of it. But anything in particular you'd like to pick apart, I am more than happy to go into detail about.
Yeah, for sure. So before all of that, were there any LARP adjacent things that maybe in your childhood or like middle school, high school that looking back on, you're like, okay, yeah, that was a precursor. That led to it. Any sports or anything like that? Like, was there anything pre-LARP that you can look back on and go, okay?
We started to. I was organizing guys to get into basically live action D&D. The precursor to it was gaming. I am not at all athletically inclined, not even a little bit. I grew up in a basketball town. Basketball was the way, life, and the truth, and there was none of it. We were at one point, my hometown of Alligator, New Mexico was a 5A basketball school. We won state all the time. But I was the worst out of everybody I knew at it. So really the only LARP adjacent thing was D&D. I got really deep into wanting to tell stories, and it reflects now. Even now, I tell stories as how I remember them, which is apparently hilarious, and I add embellishments whenever I can. I think that history should be hilarious. We should be reminded that at the end of the day, all of our titles and our pieces of paper are just that. They're pieces of paper. I've gotten exactly one positive military performance report bullet off of Amtgard, and it got me the max you could get. So I can actually claim that, yes, it did something for me, but end of the day, we are all human beings that would need to go back to work on Monday, really is what it comes down to.
Yeah, for sure. So you said 93, 94. When you started, what version of the game was that?
It was V6. Between 94 and 95 was V6. Shortly out, I'd say smack almost in the middle of when it had come out. What they had done was the V5, a lot of the stuff was outbalanced, or I'm sorry, not balanced. Listen to me. I need more coffee. So V6 was when they started to implement game titles. So 6th level Ranger or 6th level Scout was a Ranger. That's how you had to refer to somebody. 6th level Assassin was considered Grandmaster. Monk used to have Gray Belt for 1st through 3rd level. And then, 1st through 5th. 6th, you got a black belt. That's when you could wear your black belt. Warrior wasn't a purple sash. Like, sashes weren't a big thing. You just had the equipment. To play an archer, you needed a bow. To be an assassin, you needed a mask. And usually a headband. That denoted what level you were, which was stupid, because why would an assassin tell you what level they are? Wizard has always... they used to have wands.
Yep, I've heard that one.
Yeah, they had wands and a lot of other physical props. They didn't come out with a lot of the sashes till V7, but V6 was a lot of the role play stuff. Draw cuts were legal. Wiggles, all the things that used to make a lot of the tournament guys real mad were legal back when. And if the rule was, if you could feel it, take it. And that was incredibly infuriating for a lot of people, because you get one guy who got a lucky rub and you had to take it because you felt it. It led to some adjustments, quote unquote, for V7. But I appreciated V6 for what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a larger role play sort of setup.
Yeah, that's the first time I have ever heard of the titles for 6th level. I've never heard of that before. That's kind of neat. I like that.
Yep. They also had the color coding system from Daggett because they borrowed, Amtgard is borrowed from the combat side from Daggett. A lot of the weapons were color coded. Single bladed weapons were orange. Regular swords were blue. Axes were green. Maces, that kind of crushing was green. Hacking, slashing was blue. We had red weapons at one point. A lot of the color coding was from there, but nobody ever used the color, the little tape on the pommel for it. I don't know why, but everyone thought that was terrible. No one did it. That's all I remember.
I know it's funny because when you go and you watch Amtgard and you see all the people yelling and screaming at each other, it doesn't sound too off. But when you go to DAG where they don't have any of that, and then you just hear blue, blue, red, like it kind of throws you off a little bit. You're like, wait, why are they shouting colors? Like it.
Yeah, I did cross game some DAG before the huge fires that are out there right now, and I appreciate. It took me back when I played a little bit of DAG. It took me back to a simpler time, I feel like. Mm-hmm. Almost 95% of the players there were untrained in anything. Like, we teach people day 0, hour 1, this is a sword. Hold it in your hand like this. This is block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4. Don't let the rain in. And we beat that into people's heads from day 0, hour 1. In DAG, that's like year 2. They just let these kids go nuts, tackling each other and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot of fun to watch these guys go out there and get passionate about it. That's great. But it does lead to some pretty drastic, I call them head boops, when people get tagged for the red. And you get these guys that get like socked in the eye with an arrow, and they're like walking off the field with minor concussions. I'm like, ugh, come on, calm down, guys. We still got to go back to work on Monday. But
yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's a interesting conversation about the skill gap in between the games and who's the best, who has the highest and everything else. But I know for me, I love cross gaming. I play every game I can get my hands on, and going through, and I am a 5th Order of the Warrior in Amtgard, and that's a pretty generous 5th. It should be more like a 4. But when I go to DAG events and I go out on their ditch field, it's like fighting in slow motion. And it's just like, the average Amtgarder, I feel, is better than the average DAG player. But their high-end guys are as good as our high-end guys. Like, there are some DAG guys that I've seen who can keep up with our best warlords. But as far as like average Joe Schmo, pick an Amtgarder off the ditch line and then pick a DAG player off the ditch line, and the Amtgarder, I feel, is gonna have the advantage most of the time.
So if we're gonna pick apart skill levels, what I've noticed in DAG is that what they make up for in lack of skill, because they're just no one teaches. What they make up for in that is creativity. What I got to see were guys that would lose their arms. They'd get 2 of them. They'd get one guy. So say it's me fighting 2 random guys from Unit X in DAG. If 2 of those guys are armed, what they're going to do is they're going to wait for me to get legged, and they're going to stand on either side of me. So I can't use my weapons, and then their archers are going to pick me to pieces. So what we have in just raw training, those guys have to make up for in cunning and absolute hilariousness. You are a little more free in DAG to kind of pursue that. Whereas in Amtgard, it's kind of set in stone what you're going to do. I'm playing X level wizard. Okay, this is going to be my spell list. I'm not silly, right? Whereas in DAG, you just have a poem of healing and some prayers.
Yeah.
I'm praying that I can get behind the line before the arch can tag me. So,
well, that's one of the things that I like about DAG so much more than Amtgard when it comes to the fighting aspect of it. I really enjoy the line fighting of DAG Bell games, because that's something in Amtgard we just don't get very often, because you have wizards nuking the line, and it's just not something that happens. But if you go on a 200-person field for DAG, there are going to be big lines, and that's so fun to fight in that we just don't really get in Amtgard. We get more skirmishy type stuff and not actual line fighting.
Which is weird, because it used to be that way when I started in, way back when, that you had to know your position. You had to know how to fight in a line. You had to know if somebody screamed wheel left, what that meant. Wheel right. You had to know what that meant. Or you were just kicked out of the formation. They're like, get out, go skirmish. I'm serious. And we had, when they would have lines, they were like talking like 200 some people lines like you're talking about, and you would hear the call for arrows, and they would just let them loose. These archers would aim up and just let them rip, and it would blot the sky out. And you would hear thunk, 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 dead, 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 thunk, 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 dead, ow, head, right? And we used to have it, but I think we changed it into more skirmishing just because of how the game is played. Mm-hmm.
Well, immunities, and then when you have these point and click spells, and you have the long range with the extension and amulet and some of the meta magics that we have, there isn't really a need to line fight, because you don't need, like in dad games, it's objective based games most of the time, and you need the line to push together to achieve the objective. Well, in Amtgard, I'm going to take my 4 friends and we're just going to teleport over there, and I don't have to go through your line. And so it's each game, I love the mechanics of both games, but they offer different and unique fighting styles, which is really fun for me to be able to go back and forth and play with.
Yeah, that's what I loved about DAG when I crossed games for a time. I liked fighting red because a lot of people just didn't press. They stayed at B range, and I was like, okay, cool, I'm gonna break your shield. And then I started getting with some of the guys that were better tier fighters with that great weapon. And I started to understand there was more than just breaking the shield. Like, hitting people's fun, but doing it with a purpose with a longer weapon like that makes everything so much easier.
Well, so those two-hand reds have a place in DAG where they don't in Amtgard. In Amtgard, you have short swords, and then you have some of the guys who will fight with like a 42-inch to get some cheesy shots, and then the gap is like polearm. You don't have two-handed sticks like swords in Amtgard because they don't really do a whole lot. But in DAG, that's a mainstay. I mean, you throw a backpack shield on, you grab a 48-inch red, and you go to town. Yeah,
not a lie. I also have seen some guys pull off using a great sword, kind of like you would use a polearm in Amtgard now. And polearm has become the way and the truth as far as aggressive fighting. So when the ditch steps up, when you have 3 or 4 polearms start to come out, you know, after the friendly phase, I call it, after all the sword and borders and single sworders and middle model guys who gotten their fill, then you get a guy with a polearm that comes out, and you're like, okay, it's gonna get ugly real quick, and it does.
Time to start trying.
Yeah, time to pick it up a notch and make some friends, so to speak.
For sure. So tell me a little bit about, you said you got started and you loved being able to hit people, not go to jail for it. What was your first couple of park days like? What do you remember? What sticks out? Like, do you have any interesting stories from that when you were first learning the game? We have never met, so you would not know, but I have become well known for telling stories that I remember just as I remember them. Maybe not how it historically happened, but how I remember it going down is pretty hilarious. So day one was they were like, here, take the sword. And it was a PVC sword. So I'm going to rest that right there on the table for you. So you already knew what I was dealing with. The pommel was a Nerf ball taped to the bottom of the stick. Oh yeah. It looked like the sword from Clash of the Titans that Perseus had in the 70s. It looked just like it. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And they gave me a plywood round shield that was a strap. And I looked like a kid who came off the streets that had just found what he needed to find. So I'm running around trying to hit people. And of course, I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm like, oh, crack, I hit him in the leg. Cool, he has to go down, I think. Yeah, he did it. All right, wham. Okay, I'm dead. All right, plan B. So it was a lot of me trying to figure out what happened, and I ran from just about everybody because I was never a physical person as a kid. Like, a direct confrontation never happened. So it was a lot of me running away. Like, wizards would have touch of death, and they would chase me. I'm like, ah! Right? And that became the norm. So I would run away from everybody. That was my first few memories. I remember getting legged. I remember getting hit by that ring figure with a weapon that was not at all legal. Schedule 40 PVC with wraps of pipe insulation that were probably duct taped into place. One good solid swing, and I blocked with my. And back then, you didn't block with your hands. You blocked with all cool kids had a hand guard, and if you didn't have a hand guard, you were bruising a finger or you were blocking with your blade. So what had happened was I blocked with my hand, and it went. And you heard that loud PVC on flesh and bone noise, and they had to reset the finger, but my finger was still bruised, so I couldn't bend it. It looked like a big puffy Cheeto for like 3-4 days. Man.
Yeah, day 2 was me wanting to fight and I couldn't fight, so there was that. And they told me there was a rule book, and that's when I was hooked. I knew I had to have it.
Yeah, same. That was kind of how my first park days were. It was, go show up, hit kids, and then they gave me the rule book. And in D&D, I have always been a min-maxer, an optimizer. It was like,
right.
Okay, let's do this. I can get into this, and so fun. I miss the early experience of when everything is new.
Yeah, and that's what it was for me. Getting my first feast. Getting to the first tournament day, Crown Quals when they had it. My favorite when I was starting was feast nights, when you had mid-reign, end-reign, coronations, that kind of thing. That was the moment where everybody turned up and turned out. Everyone had their feast gear. Everyone had wooden bowls and spoons and like metal cups, and we all looked like lords and ladies sitting at tables. And a court guard was very, very much a thing. Everybody brought their court guard, and no matter what, after every feast, there was an after party. Everybody got together to celebrate. Hey, you got through another reign. Awesome. Let's all just be nerds in a space together. That's some of my most fantastic memories as far as that goes.
I love it. So how many kingdoms total have you played in?
1, 2, counting just visiting?
No, like resided in, played like
resided in. Okay. 1, 2, 3, almost 4. Dragonspine is where I started. Most of my early life was there. Then it was because we would switch around. Sometimes we'd play in Burning Lands too. So I kind of counted both of them. There's a funny story about how you earn your name in Burning Lands, but that's another sidebar. So Dragonspine, Burning Lands,
Pacific Northwest, you said.
I visited. I was there for an event. That's what it was. So really, I can't count it.
I got you.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4. Golden Plains, Crystal Groves, Dragonspine, and Burning Lands.
Cool. So
if I had to.
Yeah, you've been all over the place. I have always heard, as someone, I've only really played in 1.5 kingdoms. Like in college, I went and played in another kingdom just like twice, so I don't really count that. But really only in the Rising Winds. And so I have always heard of these regional differences, whether it's in fighting or ANS or culture in general. Is there any truth to that? As someone who's played all over the place, are there these regional pockets that Amtgard is just an entirely different culture and game than other places in the country?
Yes, sir. You are absolutely 1,050% correct on that one. So back when I started, if you really wanted a good sword, you went to Dragonspine. A good, solid, light, flat blade, you went to Dragonspine. The science was beautiful. If you wanted to fight hard and learn how to fight with a 12-foot polearm, you went to Burning Lands, because polearms were only 12 feet in Burning Lands. There's no such thing as a 7-footer, 8-footer. That was considered garbage at the time. 12 feet or 12 feet or nothing. Iron Mountains was where sword knights were born. Something in the water out there back in the mid to late 90s, early aughts. There was something in that water. It was like the dream team. Every time Iron Mountains came up, they came out. Their sword knights hit the field, and because they could breathe, they weren't at that higher elevation. They could fight all day. And they did. So Wetlands very much has a flavor of fighting that if you ever meet somebody from the Wetlands and you spar them 2 or 3 times, you'll pick up on it. There's no name for it, but every time you fight them, you're like, that guy's from the Wetland. I know it just by the way he stands. There is very much an ism for every kingdom that I've seen. Golden Plains very much had again, it's that untangible kind of, you see somebody with a polearm from that area and the way they use it, you're like, ooh, that guy's from Golden Plains. Okay. Or whereas you see somebody from Burning Lands, you're like, that guy's from Burning Lands. Hits like a tank, not afraid to get in somebody's face. Okay, yeah, that's Burning Lands. And it's just because of how the meta turns out for that place. So the Pacific Northwest has a very particular fighting style that's effective. Same. Now, if you take that fighting style, you drop it into the wetlands, it might not be as effective. That's not the meta. Whereas now everything's kind of blended together to create this, I call it the hybrid fighter. You can do a little bit of everything roundabout 2 years into it. You know what I mean? You see that kid pick up a stick, and 2 years in, you're like, yeah, okay, all right, go get him, kid. There you go. Get a little can of Popeye spinach and watch him go tear the line up for a while. People who go to those.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that it's very much what you had said it was.
Because I think a big part of it is the internet. And like I know I watch the James, what is his out of Texas. Delos. I watch his streams. I love Anatol's stuff. Belfil's got some stuff. He's Wisconsin or Minnesota or something. Like with the advent of the internet, I can watch style videos and how-to videos from people all over the country and then bring that to my local park, where before the internet and before YouTube, really, like it was who can teach you physically at your location, or are you going to hop on a plane and go and learn and only a few people were able to do that. So I think that the hybrid fighter, I think, comes a lot from all of our Sword Night boot camp videos and kind of all that stuff that's out there. It was a big push when SKBC first happened. There was a huge push to start pushing fighting out into areas that just didn't have it. And it's changed how we approach tournaments. It's changed how we view training. It's changed a lot of things. So FWAC 5 Warlords and a Crown Knight have done a wonderful job importing, pouring the Kung Fu in where they need it poured. For sure. And now it's multiple games too, which I think is cool. I like having that, the cross gamer community coming together for that. That's pretty cool. You talked a little bit about the fighting. Were there any like cultural differences, or like, could you tell if you walk into a wetlands event, is that event going to be distinctly different from, a Golden Plains event and things like that? Okay. Yes, sir. Wetlands tends to play at night. You sleep by day because your humidity is like 320%. The mosquitoes will carry you away. You fist fight a mosquito in the wetlands and you live, that's like a first order of the warrior for those guys. You play at night because it's cooler. Whereas in a Golden Plains event, you fight by day and you sleep at night. Aside from just garb differences and how people tend to choose their garb based on where they live. So the guys up in Florida wear very, very, very light linen stuff so they can look good and fight. Specifically the triads. Mm-hmm. When they're not wearing their soccer or their hockey jerseys. Right. But when they actually do wear their garb, it's garb, so that's going to change from, let's say, going to Burning Lands. In Burning Lands, you need those catcher's mechs. You might get your knee down in some broken glass from the local hoodlums breaking bottles at the park at night, or you might find a hypodermic syringe back in the 90s. You never know. So you definitely had to dress appropriately for wherever it is you were going to fight. Celestial Kingdom used a lot of mechs when I was in that area for a time, just because of rocks. Mm-hmm. Terrain is a very, very, very terrible thing to have to fight. That's pretty cool. I have always, as someone who has been kingdom bound or kingdom locked, it's always interesting to hear stories from how other kingdoms do things differently. I like those quite a bit. So you said that you are a flame knight with a bunch of roses, correct? Yeah, I went the rose path. So when they originally told me about feasts, they were like, "We need volunteers." I was like, "Well, you guys let me hang out with you, so I might as well help you." And I was there every feast, probably 30 minutes early, setting up, carrying in food, because we cooked our own feasts. I had started. That was very, very much a thing that it was weird to have outsourced feasts. Very weird to have outsourced feasts back then. So your own home kingdom or your own home park cooked it. So we brought in the food, set up all the tables, put all the basically. I helped set up the magic, and a lot of people are like, "Wow, this is a really great feast." And I got hooked on the idea that I made something as awesome for somebody else as it was for me. I got to see all the people get all the cool pieces of paper. Like for me, that was like the Tony Awards as a mundane comparison.
who did what this reign? Oh, this guy got a warrior because he totally took that tournament. I remember that day. Yeah. And everybody would clap and we'd pound on the tables, and you kind of got lost in that moment. And that's when I got hooked on. So I started to go that route. I was like, well, let's help out wherever I can. So I started getting in everywhere. I was like, let's get this feast. Oh, they're having a feast over there. So most of it was kind of some feast work, some prep work. There was also some in Golden Plains. There was very much divide in while I was out there. Golden Plains had a divided skill gap. Like there were knights and squires that were, what you'd expect. And then there was a giant devoid wasteland, and then everybody else. There was no middle. Yeah, well, at the time, because of how it was, like that's actually a conversation we should probably have away from here, the dichotomy there. But I decided that I was going to start doing what I could there. So while that became a thing, about that time, the song "Where Is the Love" from the Black Eyed Peas came in. So I actually got a little stamp that had the upside down question mark in the box. I started putting it on everything that was paper. And everybody asked what I was doing. I was like, where's the love? I said, what do you mean? Where's the love? If you don't love your kingdom, who will? And it became a rallying cry to start bringing people together and start bringing a little bit more of a closer knit Amtgard that I like. I like going to a park and having running jokes with anybody that I can look at. So if I go up and fight a top tier fighter in my kingdom, I can joke and go, don't you hit me with your skill and your training. I'm here for the high crosses and role play, sir. I'm going to walk over that way and put my sword on my head. And then everyone kind of laughs about it because, I'm calling dead, but I'm doing it in that disgusted, I should have hit you with my high cross, but I didn't face. I like nonstop laughing when I come to Amtgard because it should be a place where we're supposed to have fun. So I kind of incorporated a lot of that into the things that I did. And I ran a lot of different games and I was behind the scenes doing a lot of stuff there. And you could see the transformation. So that's where I got hooked. I wanted to make this game as awesome for other people as it was for me. And eventually it got me knighted.
So your 8, 9, 10 masterhood, what were those? Was it the feast stuff? Were they given for specific things, or was it more body of work? If someone is following in your footsteps, what would that look like?
First of all, don't follow my footsteps. Don't be me. Be awesome. And I say that because I had a hard time with staying motivated. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, when dinosaurs roamed the earth, I was squired to a man named Sir Farrellin. Sir Farrellin was a serpent knight. He doesn't play anymore, but when he did, he was serpent and crown. When I took that squire's belt from him, we had a history of, we couldn't even be in the same room. We loathed each other at one point. And he finally sat down and listened to what I was dealing with as a kid. He was like, holy crap, dude. You just have a terrible narrative. And then that changed how he looked at me, and we started talking, and I eventually took a squire's belt from him. And when I did, he said, man, I've got 4 squires. He's like, tell me you want to get knighted. I was like, nope, I just want to be a squire. And he was like, crap, none of you want to get knighted. I was like, all right, well, now I got to get knighted. He said, don't do this for me. I was like, too late. I am actually doing this for you. And that path, 8th, 9th, 10th, and masterhood, a lot of it was for way back when, for a lot of feast related stuff. But then it became for a body of work. I wouldn't do just one thing. I would help run. I would help set up, tear down, teach people whatever I could physically. I felt my job as a squire was to be able to, I can sew a basic tabard. I can sew a basic tunic. I can make a basic sash. I can make a basic anything. So I can transport anywhere in the world and set up a shire. I felt that was my duty as a squire. So a lot of that came from, a lot of my other stuff came from mostly body of work, conflict resolution in Golden Plains, and a lot of just being out there and pulling all the young kids, all the kids that had really bad guard, because they was like week, it was their first event, or maybe week 1 or week 2, and I'd take them under my wing and like, all right, hit that guy in the leg and then run off as fast as you can. I'll kill him. And that kid would run up and smack that veteran player in the leg and be like, and he'd run off. And I'd hustle in right behind him, and I'd press real close, and I throw that big old sky hook that the torches love to use, and I kill that guy off. And I was like, "Good job, man!" And I fist bumped the guy, and he was like, "Wow, I beat that sword knight." I'm like, "Yeah, let's go beat that other guy." So that's what it looked like. After a while, I stalled out at probably 8-9 roses, and the motivation, like, it was wearing on me. Every time I went out and I poured my heart, my soul into a lot of stuff, I was getting skipped for a few things. And I got it. Like, it was for other people that didn't have what I had. I was okay with letting other guys step up to receive those accolades. But at the same time, I'm like, man, it's like a 20-hour, 30-hour a week job. And finally, it came down to I was challenged by the guy who ran the COK at the time, Moonshadow Everdarius. He, of course, he doesn't play anymore, but he said, "Okay, I challenge you to double the attendance of an event you can't make it to, triple the usage of the online forums we have now, and make it to Gathering Friends." And I was like, "All right, man, here we go." So I put on my best. Caps Lock and I have a very special relationship when I'm excited. Caps Lock for me is to be goofy and silly and all the rest of that jazz. Regular letters are for when I'm serious. And I like to be goofy. So I would get on there and I would start doing impersonations online of these people just using a keyboard, and you could hear the person talk. And they were all tongue-in-cheek stuff. And it really started to get more people online. So they started using the forums more. And I started really hyping this event up that I couldn't make. And everybody's asking if I was going to make it. I was like, no, I can't. I can't get leave from the military to do it. And they were sad, but everybody showed up. They got 100. They were scheduled for 150. They got 300 people that event.
Awesome.
And last but not least, thank you. My squire brother at the time paid for my way and my then wife's way to go to Clan. So the rest was history. I had no idea I was even being knighted. I just knew I fulfilled all the prereqs there. But that was it. Like, I was at 10 roses because of the way the Golden Plains Kapora was written. They were okay with your first few roses should have come from local park, and I had none from my local park. So with everything combined, it became a 10. Not necessarily I'm glad there's an award standardization now, which spells that out. But at the time, it wasn't there, kind of. So the big problem was staying motivated, was staying on target. Like they say in Star Wars, stay on target. Everything's coming in around you, and you have to. When you say you're going to go out and you're going to do it, you've got to execute. It doesn't matter. At least for me, it was, I have to pull this off. I've got to get it done. And there were events that I was mentally and physically exhausted, and I would go home and I'd sleep for 6 to 18 hours because I was so drained from being hyper focused on what I had to do. And it becomes a game of how can I keep it going?
So for sure, one of the things that I think most players come up against, you said it a little bit there, the getting skipped over or maybe getting double awards. I know I came up on that, and people who had been there and done that said, hey, that's just part of it. You gotta learn how to deal with it. And it frustrated me so much at the time. But in reality, I don't know a single master who hasn't felt like they've been skipped or didn't get, they didn't get 2 6s or something like that, or 3 7s or whatever. I feel like that is right. My next question for you, this is kind of me answering that question first, but if I was going to give someone some advice who was at that 6 or 7 or 8 and they're trying to push up to masterhood, I think what you said of figuring out how to stay motivated, keep doing it, and don't let the negative things drive you out of the game. Would be my biggest piece of advice. But for you, if there's someone who is at that 7 roses, 8 roses, and they're getting to the point where they see the masterhood, it's visible and they can almost taste it, but they're plateaued or they're struggling to get that next one. What piece of advice would you give to that person?
First, I want to see how they're doing it. Are they doing it through feast work? Like, for instance, Piper, my wife, revolutionized how feast is done in CG. Could get any budget, give her a number, and she would come in under budget and make you money from the feast. Period. That's how it went down. It was hot. It was fresh. It was tasty. A lot of people complain about feasts. But in her case, it was, how do we change what we're doing to get people to notice what it is you're doing? If that makes sense. Mm-hmm. For Sword, it's always going to be, can I beat the guys ahead of me? For Serpent, it's going to be, how do I make my art really super attractive? You know what I mean? From garb to, in your case, belt weaving. You've inspired, to include my squire. You inspired my squire, Leal. Hey, Leal, how you doing? That's my shout out. Inspired them to take that same route, and then how do they change the game? You know what I mean? How do we make that art or that thing that we do more appealing, make people want to watch? So if you're just helping to cook feast, can you change the menu? Can you, I don't know, change anything for your feast? You know what I mean? I'm just throwing feast stuff out there because that's what that's what my wife did. That's what's stuck in my head at the moment. So for your serpent guys, we've done garb to death in Amtgard. We've done it to death. Weaving was something that wasn't on the map. So now we can take weaving from just your basic macrame belt, the S weave, that one where it just kind of stripes down and stripes down and stripes down, right? We can change that by making a chevron now. We can change that by making it look like a lightning bolt shot through the center of the belt. We can change that by making 2 belts weave into 1 belt, right? So now we're making people go, oh, wow, I didn't know you could do that with macrame. There's the challenge. That's what you have to change. If you're in a bardic situation, you want to go the singing route, what song can you change, or what song can you bring to the table that you really know well, like the back of your hand, and you can make people lose themselves for probably a good 3 minutes in that song? That's my piece of advice I would give somebody stuck in that particular place.
Yeah, for sure. I know, and I might be a little different than some other masters in this area, but I felt like my skill was where it needed to be around that 7 mark, maybe high 6, but around that 7. And for me, the 8, 9, and for us, 10 and masterhood are the same thing. So for me, that 8, 9, and 10 was just doing it consistently. I don't feel like it is necessarily a large skill gap from the guys and girls who are, at 7. It's really just doing your skill consistently well and innovating as much as you can to get there. Yeah, no doubt. And that's what's going to eventually start drawing the COK to talk about you.
And if they can talk about your skill and you at the same time and smile when they're doing it, yeah, you're on the right track.
Well, and some people say, well, especially in the crafting world, it's like, oh, the thing that I'm really passionate about or the thing I'm good at, I'll never get knighted for that. I'll never get a masterhood for that. And to that, I say, try it. Right. When I was coming up, no one, I got told so many times, I will never get a masterhood for just belts. Right. I will never, because of my weaving stuff, ever get to that point. Well, 6 winning Dragon Master tournaments later, here I am. You know what I mean? So even if you have an obscure craft or an obscure service area, if it's something that you're passionate about and you love, go for it. I mean, you'll get to the point, if you are good enough at something and you do it enough, people can't not look at it. Like they have to, shove it down their throat. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, cannot agree with you enough. And I think that's changing that how people view knighthood and how to get there. That climb is changing for the positive, I've seen.
Mm. That's actually a very interesting topic.
I've seen that.
Go ahead. I've
seen a change from what it used to be to what it has become now, which is more, it's more personal based. It's not so much, do you have, they call them box tops, and that term infuriates me to no end. Box tops implies cereal. I don't eat cereal to get awards. I mean, if I could, I'm big enough. I'm a biggin. I could probably pull off a couple of awards easy from just cereal, but nah, we put blood, sweat, and tears into what we get. Definitely a change for the positive. But I apologize for interrupting you.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. We've got a little bit of a delay here, so it's we're playing with it. It's all right. So the I think it's a very interesting topic. You've been around for multiple decades in this game. Has knighthood changed the role of knighthood from, say, the mid 90s to where it was maybe in the mid 2000s to where it is now? And are those changes positive, negative? Just looking at the office or the role of knighthood, how does that compare to how it was when you started?
So when I started, knighthood was the end all. That was like everyone saw the white belt. If there was ever a question about something that could happen somewhere, the knights were questioned. You know what I mean? Paladin, anti-paladin in V6 was, unless you're a second level wizard, don't bother. Immune to just about everything. And you got armor, and you got abilities, and you looked cool while you did it. So it started as being what I saw kind of as like the superhero role. The knights would get called in to do something. The knight did this. You know what I mean? They were always the guy that everybody looked up to. And in the 2000s, it was more or less we made the decision that not all masters are knights and not all knights are masters per se. That was very much a conversation that a lot of people had online. So we started to kind of try to step the game up so we could look better. And then from there, I think it's become more technical and more personal based, like I was just saying. So this person might not have the mainstream skill. This person might only, in your case, weave macrame belts. Do they do it to a degree that you can find no fault with that product? Are they approachable? Whereas before, it wasn't so much about person, but body of work, I found. Not as to say that's bad. Some of the people that got knighted were awesome. Some people were, I can't say bad. I didn't know them very well. So I kind of shrug. I did know some bad eggs, and I don't know what happened to them, truth be told. I don't remember what happened. But as that role changed, as that office changed, some things have stayed the same. Mentorship, teaching, approachability, that's all been a thing. Now people aren't afraid to come talk to knights anymore. I've tried to preach it more everywhere I've gone. Just because I wear a white belt doesn't mean I don't put my pants on the same as you do every morning. It just means that I did something and people saw it, you know? I still have bad days. I still have days where I wake up with a headache. I don't I don't insert mythical thing here, you know? And there are days where I need a hug. I'm hugging other people, but there's some days I'm like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. I can't throw my spell balls right. My arrows are flying in circles. Like my swords are all broken. Everything's on fire and it's terrible. Nowadays, people aren't afraid to come up and ask that question. At least I found. And I think that's awesome. I think we need to encourage that more. I think we need to look at knighthood not as an end-all, be-all. I think we need to look at it as definitely the leadership, mentorship, all that jazz. I think we need to remember that we have titles. In the original Kaporas, titles were actually higher than knighthood. knighthood was a mid-tier award, believe it or not. It just displayed, you were a master and or knighted in this particular thing. Archduke, Grand Duke, those were looked at as somebody who had some weight in a conversation, if that makes sense. I would like to see titles not get forgotten and knighthood to not be the end all be all. I think that would be a step, in my opinion, a better step in the right direction for our little society that we have.
Yeah, for sure. I know I've only been playing about 10 years, maybe 11 years now, and I have seen a lot of the bad knights kind of get weeded out in my time. They've been asked to stay home or have taken the hint and stayed home. And so even in just the 10 years that I've been playing, I've seen a culture shift where the knights that we have, that we are making, seem to be pretty good. Granted, time will tell. But a lot of the ones where when I was a new player and someone came up and I'm like, oh, hey, that's a knight. And then someone was like, yeah, but you probably don't want to go interact with him. Those guys are gone for the most part. And I think that's a pretty positive change.
People are getting weeded out bit by bit. That also lies into the COC giving people power to get rid of those people.
Yeah.
But we have to be willing to step up to do that, which I think is a sidebar conversation. I don't want to completely derail what's going to happen. You know what I mean? What we're talking about here, that's a whole, anytime you ever want to, aside from me, you ever want to talk about that, I am more than happy to.
So I want to ask you a little bit, as when we're on the knightly topic. You said that you were a part of a belt line before you got knighted. How important was that to you? I know some people who their belt line is everything to them, and then on the other hand, it's like, I was going to get it anyway, and this is just, it's kind of cool. Like, so tell me about your knight or your squire, whoever was above you before you became a knight. That relationship, how much did it help you? Things like that.
So I was squire to Farrell and Hammersong. We were at the same park together. As a kid, I didn't have an outlet, so to speak. I didn't have an outlet for all the pent up rage. I was not an athletic kid in an athletic kid town. So at first we couldn't stand each other. And then when he eventually offered, he's like, I put a red belt on you. Eventually I came back and was like, all right, let's do it. So when we did that, I was, out of 4 squires, I was the one that was the most rambunctious. I did a lot of things that were considered socially acceptable at the time. I was not afraid to run out and have a few drinks and go ditch in the ditch line. Not as to say it's not socially acceptable now, but way back when it was. And a lot of people were like, Farrell, your squire is making a fool of himself. And Farrell's like, where is he? Well, he's in the ditch line. Okay, give him about 3 hours, he'll be fine. And I came shuffling back in. I set my gear down, and I was relaxing in a chair, looking up at the moon. And I was like, oh, man, that was awesome. Because I would have those drinks, and I'd go out and I'd fight. But I also felt like it was my responsibility. If I'm going to go do that, I want to go do that in such a way that I'm not cheating. So I had to balance drink versus ability to keep playing. Other times I would tell a lot of jokes, and I'd run around and goof off with everybody. And, some people had a problem with that, because a squire should be this workhorse, and they should X and the Y and the Z, and they should fall in line, and they should definitely do these things. And I didn't do those things. And people looked down on that, and they said, well, this guy is he's a squire, he's a bad example, he shouldn't be. But those same people didn't see when the new kid got trounced by, insert fighting company here, and he was really upset about that. They didn't see me when I was out there going, hey, man, it's okay. They're just better than you. They're better than you at this stick wiggle game. A lot of these guys have been doing it for 10, 20 some years. You got to expect that. It's okay. It's all right. Stand up, shift down the line a few people, and try it again. And that's what kind of shifted my mentality from from just being a goofball to being a goofball with a purpose. That relationship, every time I screwed up, I got the look. Okay, Squire, you can stop now. Okay, sorry. Farrell never asked me to do anything. He never did. He never asked me to do a thing. I didn't have to carry anything for him. I didn't have to, and that was a thing when I started. Squires had to carry their night stuff and help them set up and help them break down. And not me. It was grab gear, go hit nerds, go run back to where the water is, drink water, go back, hit more nerds. And Farrell just let me be. And I got to discover not only who I was through just being able to let it all out. You know, I'd go to an event and I was the most mobile person I knew. I never sat still at events. I was going to see people. I was going to hang out at campsites, and generally just see people and say hi to my friends. And that relationship between Farrell and I kind of turned into more of like a father-son relationship. He really did take me under his wing. He really did sit me down and be like, okay, if you want to be a knight, this is what you got to look up to. You know, this is what we're looking for. This is what you need to change. This is what you need to go out and take care of. You know, look out for that little guy. Look out for that brand new player who's having a hard time making a sword. So I every event I went to, I'd find one of those kids having a hard time. I'd sit him in the back of my van, and we'd talk about what he was doing right, what he was doing wrong, and you know, I'd hand out free gear all the time. Be like, here you go, I got a sword. Because back then it was Fun Noodle and, you know, Pool Noodle and Golf Court. Yeah, okay, cool. I can crank out 25, 50 swords in an event. Sure. So these kids needed sticks, and I gave them sticks, right? So that's where I started to shape myself into what it needed to be. Farrell was just kind of there because he asked, and I love him to death. Still do. He kind of taught me what it was to be to start to be a stand-up dude. I've stumbled over the years. I faltered, and you know, we all have our regrets, but I think that's where it kind of started for me, was that whole relationship. It did mean the world to me. It wasn't my identity. Distance was hard. It was really, really, really hard. So I try to make sure that anybody that I built is trying to be in the same place as I was. I do have way too many squires. Some are in Texas, in the Texas, New Mexico area. Some are out on this coast of me, right? But they all have a very personal place with me. So I took what I learned from that and I put it into my belt.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go on a little rant here. So viewers, if you are watching and you are a part of a belt line and you're a page, a person at arms, or a squire, and you have a knight who is saying, set my tent up, you need to leave right now. That is not a healthy thing that is a part of our game culture anymore. I make sure with my squires, I will ask them to help me what I'm doing, right? But I will never tell my squire to do something that I am not going to do with them. And if you have an overbelt of any kind who is forcing you to, you know, come off the ditch field because I need you to, you know, run into town and get me cigarettes, or, you know, quit what you're doing and set my tent up. Drop that belt right now. You do not need any of that in your life. So my next question for you, you've talked a little bit about your knight. Tell me a little bit about your squires. I know you said you had a bunch of them. How many do you have? And how does your belt line work with pages and person at arms and squires? And what does it look like now as a knight, look like going down the chain?
So each person that I have belted, it started as a squire. I was at a college town, and there was a few people that have been my page throughout the times that have eventually dropped or just moved on with life, and I wish them well. I didn't really have a solid plan when I was a squire, but when I got knighted, I was like, man, I should probably like do a thing. So each person that I've ever asked to be my squire has had I've had a very, very, very personal reason to do it. And I teach each one of my squires differently because that's how they will learn better. So my first, from my earliest days, stop it. Woo, there we go. My phone went weird. Sorry, I apologize. You might have to edit that part out.
No worries.
So Crix in the Celestial Kingdom is one of my squires, and he was man-at-arms at first, and I gave him that belt because he was not being treated well by his king, and I wanted to give him kind of a way to fight back. And as time went on, he took off on his own and really started getting things done as far as running battle games and all the rest of that stuff goes. So for him, it was telling him that you should not do these things because Crix is very angry. But if I can steer Crix's anger into something like a project, it becomes an amazing project. Whereas my other squire, Thor's Hammer, I've known him since my first days in Portales, New Mexico. That guy has become like family to me. He struggles to get off the ground to go get any form of Amtgard done. He lives in maybe like an hour or two away from the Amarillo area, which is the smack middle of Golden Plains. Good luck. I love him, but he is my country strong squire, I call him. We made a pole arm out of a painter's pole, yoga mat, some foam to cap it with, gorilla glued it, strapping taped it, put a cover on it. He broke it in 2 swings. 2 swings. I love that man, but for the love of God, I am done making him gear. 50 swords later, 1 pole arm and some other equipment. No, get your own. I love him to death. I would give him the shirt off my back. He is my squire for a different reason than, say, Crix is. To move along, Mono in the Celestial King, or not Celestial, but Crystal Groves was my squire at one point. He was because of leadership, and he's now a dual belted knight, or will be a dual belted knight. So when I move on from there, Leal was a very, very special case. I wanted to wait. I had thought to ask Leal to be my squire at one point because we had. It was a deeper conversation than I have with most people. And I saw a lot of positive traits in Leal. So I waited. Leal asked every other. He got plenty of other offers, but when he turned down, I was like, okay, well then I'll ask you to be my squire. Well, what do I have to do? Do what you love. Do that a lot. And he was like, okay, I'll do it. And now Leal is sitting at masterhood, master dragon.
Owl.
I have another squire. Right? Owl, yes. I'm sorry. Not dragon. Owl.
Our kingdoms do it differently. I'm a dragon and they are an owl, even though it's the same medium. Oh, yeah.
Weird. I mean, it is what it is. I have another squire who was originally my person at arms, and she role plays a cat. Her name is Kazoo, and Kazoo was asked to be my page at first because Kazoo destroyed lettuce hilariously, and made eye contact with me, and then purposely devoured this lettuce like a beast that was paid to eat lettuce. And I thought it was the funniest thing I'd seen in a long time. And I was like, yeah, I could probably work with that. And as time went on, I found that there was a budding leader and budding flame knight there. Just needed the right push. So I eventually made her a squire. So her first title was Cat at Paws. We changed it on her squire's belt to say Squire Claws. And it looks like a cat chewed on the end. Yeah, it looks like a cat chewed on the end of the belt. There's little cat paws all running down the center of the belt. It's a really cool belt. So all these people were squired at different times for different reasons. And I teach them all differently because if I teach everybody under one blanket, not everybody's comfortable under one blanket. Maybe they need 2. Mm-hmm. Maybe they need no blanket. Maybe they need the AC on. So just with using that metaphor alone, I'm able to personalize their squire experience. And I tell anybody if they want to go. And I've lost people. I've lost other belts just due to, well, you're not a sword knight. Okay, bye. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not a tourney guy. I used to be, but I got a kid, my tiny dinosaur takes all of my energy. So I can't do it like I used to anymore, man. So if you got to go, go. If anybody's uncomfortable with something I've done, tell me, it's a very, very, I take the role of being a mentor very seriously. My belts have unlimited access to my fermented well of a mind. If they need help with something, I'm there, trying to help them figure it out. If they need, if they need help with it, I'm there for them. When Mono was my squire, he was at my house watching The Last Samurai with me, and he made hideous pommels. Boy could not make a pommel to save life, so I had to teach him how to do it, and he fell asleep on my couch. That was our very first day as Knight Squire.
I love it.
I no longer have that couch.
One of the things that I tried to teach my squires and kind of make pretty to anyone who will listen, my job as a knight isn't to teach you the skill set. If I am producing 3 knights underneath me who all can crank out the same belts that I can, I don't think I'm doing my job very well. My job isn't to teach you a skill. It's to help you learn how to navigate and be the leader that the kingdom needs you to be. And so, for instance, my knight is a flame knight, and I will 99% never be a flame knight. I'm a serpent knight, and that's probably going to be the only one I get. And I didn't need him to teach me the skill set. I needed him to teach me how to navigate and be the leader of our game. And then I've got one who will be a serpent. Well, heck, he'll probably get his flame before he gets his serpent. And then I have another guy, my other squire, who's a sword. And I'm not helping the sword guy at all. He's already significantly better than me. And I'm not helping the flame guy too much other than consistent feedback, helping direct them to people that they need, giving a springboard if they have ideas, be able to help back and forth. And so this, I think one of the older mindsets is I want to be a sword knight, so I need a sword knight.
Yeah. Well, it's I don't think it's even like that. It's happened in Crystal Groves. People have come up to me and be like, well, man, I want to be a serpent knight. I was going to ask you to be your man at arms, but you're a flame knight. You can only make flame knights. What?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Weird mindset. So it's not just an older one. It's happened most recently too, not to cut you off.
No, you're good. I think it's a good conversation to have, is that it's not the skill that I'm passing down. It's more of the mindset and the leadership abilities that the kingdom needs. That's what I'm trying to pass down. So question for you now. If you're going to give one piece of advice, either to your squires when they're getting elevated, or like for me, I've been a knight for less than a year. So what is a piece of advice that you would give a new knight venturing forth into this world of responsibility and the office of knighthood, something maybe you didn't know that you wish you knew when you became a knight?
There's a couple, but the one that I always find rings true is that congratulations, you have climbed to the peak of the mountain. Take 6 months to do nothing. Absolutely nothing. What you should do with that time is fall back in love with Amtgard. If you cannot fall back in love with Amtgard, if you cannot find a reason to keep coming out of the park, quit. Stop playing. You got what you wanted. Walk away now before you become bitter and jaded and miserable. That is to say that I'm not bitter and jaded. I truly, truly am. I'm a bitter, cynical person. But I find those people in Amtgard, like Fuzz, who came from that Tal'Dagor Rising Winds area, who he is my best friend. He is the positive to my negative. So as I'll start getting frustrated, he's like, "What are you even talking about, man?" And he'll come up with these like wonderfully, aggressively positive things that he has to say about people. And it really does ease the tension. Like it stops me from falling too far into myself. And that's what I tell knights, new knights especially. Take 6 months to do nothing but travel to different parks. Just enjoy it. Enjoy being a knight. Enjoy getting out there and seeing people. Those same people that once talked to you like you were their boy, you were their best friend. They're going to look at you different now because you have that white belt. And it's true. They're going to look at you like, oh, I can't talk to you anymore. You're one of them. What do you mean I'm one of them? You're a knight now. I have to mind my P's and Q's, or you'll get me suspended and kicked out of the game forever. You'll take my Christmas away, and my birthday's next. And whoa, dude, you got to do something that warrants that. Like, otherwise, I'm just here to hit you with a stick. Let's talk about Pokemon or something, man. Like, you're getting dark on me, buddy. You know, so once you can take that time after that 6 months to go out and do nothing, wallow around and enjoy just going out to a ditch line and do real good with a weird combo.
And play Paladin for the first time.
Complete waste of time. I did it. I was like, this is terrible. V7 Paladin is the worst. Why did I ever want to play this class? And I cried a lot. Like, I was sitting and like, this is Paladin for me. I was AP the whole way through. I was 6th level AP before I ever took a credit Paladin, which is my squire's fault. That's another hilarious story. After that 6 months, definitely stand back up, dust off your belt favor, I call it, dust off your chair, and slowly work your way back into it. And you'll find that the people that once looked at you like you were their best friend are now going to look at you differently because you have a white belt on. But once you take that white belt off, they'll look at you right just the way they used to. Like there was no time missing at all. It's the symbol of it all. This is a very, very, at times it's not any fun at all to be a knight. Be ready for that. There's times where it's going to be awesome to be a knight and you get to watch somebody get knighted. You get to see all the cool handshakes and secret decoder rings that we have now as knights in that office. And you'll find that that's a unique situation for you. I couldn't do this, a year or 2 years ago. Well, now you can. Now you get to see the flip side of that. You get to see the other side of that coin for knighthood. You saw getting there. You experienced getting there. Now you have the opportunity to make somebody else's dream come true, so to speak. You're like, hey, you're cool enough. I think you should be a squire. And you watch as that person's whole world is shattered in the best way possible. And you've made them realize some self-worth. And later on, that guy is not going to be able to sleep that night. He's going to sit up holding that belt, looking at it like, wow, I got to be a squire. Those are the things that are going to they're going to drive you forward from here on out.
Yeah, for sure. That's one of the things that I am most looking forward to is both of my squires are fairly high up in the ladder awards. One's at 8, one's at 7. And I am looking forward to be able to drop the sword. Like, I think that's going to be the next big exciting thing. And it's not going to be another belt for me. It's going to be helping them achieve the goals that they want. Yeah.
It is a very different feeling. I've actually had the privilege of knighting one of my friends. He was getting his belt. He's like, his knight couldn't do it because he had particular health issues going on. So he asked me he's like, could you run this ceremony? And I was like, yeah, I can do it. And I told him, I made it extra special. I kept looking at I'd look at my pretend watch. And I would look up at him and I go, tick, tick, tick. He's like, what are you ticking for? I said, we're counting down to the time I get to make you cry. He's like, why are you going to make me cry? He's like, if I don't make you cry, I didn't do my job. I think everybody should feel special when they get an award, no matter what it is. It's your first rose, your 10th rose, your 25th dragon. You got an order of the alligator. I don't know what kind of weird made up awards you get. You should feel awesome when you get it. And when I ran that ceremony, boy, I tore the roof off the place. And there still might be a video floating around of it, so I'll have to see if I can find it. But I said a lot of pretty words, and I knighted him, and I had his whole belted family sneak up behind him after he got his belt. And I say, rise, Sir Pharaoh, Darkchild, Knight of the Crown. Everybody's like, right, like we all do. And I said, right when everybody got quiet, I was like, turn and be greeted by those who love you most. And he turned right around and bam, right into his belt line. Oh, it was waterworks. It was beautiful.
I like that. That's awesome.
Definitely a really cool feeling. Yeah, definitely a really cool feeling.
That's cool. So this last, year of COVID has been a little different than normal. How have you been doing on like personal level and Amtgard level? How have you managed to keep that fire going, that love for Amtgard going in this past year when there really hasn't been much real Amtgard?
Arc. I played a load of Arc. I took this time off for me. I was like, I don't have to go to a field, and I don't have to like teach nobody nothing. I get to like run around. I was working from home at the time, so I was like, I wake up at 6:30 in the morning, throw on some sweatpants, make a cup of coffee, and get to work. This is awesome. But a lot of the other stuff was, and on a serious note, it was a lot of answering questions. Some of it was just, when we were able to video chat, like there was a lot of online gaming. Excuse my yawn. I work really, really, like my job isn't hard, but dear God, I have an hour commute both ways. It was online gaming, like actually playing. I've been storytelling from 1997 till now. I was there for World of Darkness and a lot of those other games, so I got to introduce a lot of people to that, and that gave them ideas for Garb, and that gave them ideas for character development and a lot of other stuff like that. So that's kind of, I missed it, but I was still able to see my company bros. I was still able to see all the guys that all wear the Drake's head, like, is on my guard. We still got to see each other ish. We got to hang out. We still got to be together like that. And it was, it kept me going. It kept me going. It really did.
Tell me a little bit about your fighting company. I know I guess I skipped over that question earlier. I'm a huge sucker for fighting companies. I love the history behind stuff. I love the meaning behind the symbols, the accomplishments. Tell me who you rep, why you rep them, what if you're recruiting for them, what are you saying for people? Give me the rundown on your company.
So I am a veteran of several companies that have failed. And a lot of the old heads in Crystal Groves and we were like, man, we're tired of things not working. So originally Brimstone Basilisks was a cross-game company in DAG. I was welcomed into what was Torendor at the time. And they were like, man, we invite you. You should come and set up a unit in our realm, which in DAG, fighting companies are like water. You could join 50 of them in a year. And they were like, that's whatever, man. It's cool. What? So originally we started Brimstone Basilisks as a cross-game company in Torendor. Torendor's colors were black, green, and silver, so we chose black, green, and gold to kind of honor that past. When I formed it, of the original 6, the idea was that we wanted to be a cross-game company, and we kind of wanted to be a cross-game company that also, was primarily from Amtgard. And that didn't work out so great, so we kind of merged with another company called the Order of Tauren, and that was disastrous. It got convoluted. It wasn't any real drama. Just when you have more things that you have to make for Garb for getting like promoted, so to speak, it diluted the waters to the point you're like, this is really generic feeling. So Brimstone pulled back, and we decided, all right, we're just going to be Amtgard, period. So when we did that, we were like, what should we do? The original idea is we were copying from the Salamanders from Warhammer 40K. We were like, the Salamanders are cool because they were the ones that if they touched down on a planet, everybody was like, yeah, the Salamander showed up. Oh, no. Oh, wait. The Salamander showed up. What's here? Oh, man. And they were the ones that would stick around on the planet and get to know the denizens of the place they were protecting. And I liked the fact they were different. So we copied their stuff. The Drake's head is actually the Salamander's mobile flag. Not the actual like full blown salamanders. The dragon's head of the flames coming out of the nose up in a like a big U. If you Google it, you'll see it. We use their just the Drake's head kind of down at an angle. That's our mainstay. We don't really have a captain. We all vote on everything that happens. Our company is structured in such a way that it doesn't matter who you are. You have a say. If you are a full-blown, whether you are a pledge or a hatchling, as we call them, you are going to hatch out of that egg and become a basilisk, cool. Or you're a full-blown brother or sister or however you identify, you still have that voice. hatchlings we listen to, but they can't vote.
Mm-hmm.
Full-blown brothers and sisters are the ones that we all vote together. We got to figure out what we're going to do. We vote on our members, and we also have a little trial by combat that we do. It's a 2v1 situation where it's a production. It really, when you see the whole thing go off, it actually really is cool. We have it's 2v1. They get to fight with whatever they want with the hatchling, and we as the lizards fight with one person sword and board, one person polearm. That's the most common double team you see in any kind of battle game situation. So we set it up like a regular battle game. Can you beat 3 teams of lizards? Full blown, we call ourselves collective. We call ourselves lizards. So can you beat 3 teams of us? Not sequentially, but 3 of us. Period. Now, if we kill you, we have what's called the alligator count. You have till 20 alligator to basically stand up and call lay on. We've never had anybody go the full 20 alligator. They always get back up. They always fight. Mm-hmm. Without getting too far into the weeds as far as what we do, once you can do that, the lizard that you killed, you get their macrame belt.
Oh, cool.
That goes around your waist. You are now the new lizard. You took your scales off one of the other lizards, like 3 other lizards, and you grew a tail. So that is our moment for them. And now your tail has a story. Well, my tail came from Jynx. I have lizard kids. That's what we call them. We have somebody that's in charge of the family tree as to who came from who, from what.
I like that.
And it brings a lot of people together. We have our own little mini event called Tabernacle, which is where we all get together and we vibe. That's our moment where we just get to be together. We get to talk, laugh, generally shoot the breeze. To make that jump, however, from nobody to hatchling, you have to make a public declaration. You have to get 3 lizards together that are of sober mind. They have to be completely stone-faced sober when you make the intent. If they've had 1 drink, they're not good. You have to go find another one. It's that serious for us. And you say, I want to be a lizard. I want them scales. And we'll say, okay, we'll talk about it. And then most times we've had a trial at Kingdom events, and it's drawn people in. So when we have that, we tell the hatchlings, like, I want to be a lizard because I think you guys are cool and you don't smell like cheese, and whatever thing brings them to us. And we're like, okay, well, we're going to talk about this. And if we know them, we list things that they have to stop doing, because we don't bring the code of conduct is one thing for us, but like lizard conduct, we try to hold ourselves above the code of conduct in the best way possible. We don't want to be known by our worst member. We don't have a worst member, so we decided that okay, well, one guy in particular had a bad habit of getting blackout drunk at events. He's like, I want to be a lizard. Like, first thing you're going to stop doing is drinking at events. We don't mind if you have a couple of, you have a couple of shots with a couple of your buddies, or you drink a beer or something. That's cool. But you get blackout drunk, you start puking in trash cans. We have a problem. Get help, right? And that dude cleared up all this stuff. And for the hatchling to schedule their trial, they have to be at 6 practices or 3 major events. So events count as 1 point, so you get your 3 points that way, or you go to practices, which is half a point, or you can mix it up, 1 event, some practices, and then you get in that way, right? And you have to schedule your own trial, and usually now they've been at Tabernacles so that we can free up our other lizards to go do battle games or whatever else. We very much pride ourselves on being super inclusive. So if anybody comes into our camp, if you're swinging as if you're fighting, period, we have a water bottle for you. For those hatchlings that pass their trial. We've even had guys that have overheated during the trial, and we've had to call the trial like, look, dude, we can't go any further because we're afraid for your safety. So we call it, we break them, but we fix them. Right when they're like, what they're turning colors, they're looking gray. We immediately get them water, get them in the shade, sit them down. We have at least all the lizards go up and tell them, we see you're trying. We see that you put your all into that. It just means not right now. Don't think we hate you. We still love you. Come back again and try again. We want people that want to be a part of us to eventually make it in. The trial is designed that we're eventually going to lose. If you put in the time and you train, because a lot of these kids are newer fighters. I say a lot of them, but some of them are newer fighters. Some of them are veterans, right? And they just they polish up a little bit. They go to their trial. They'll get through. And once that lizard gets through, the hatchling gets the 3rd win, everyone immediately stops everything they're doing. They're like, "That's 3," and everybody cheers. Woo! We run over and we hug them. We lift them back up on their feet and we tie the belt around them, and then we celebrate. That's our moment to the tribe does the thing, you know, and wherever. It's not about so much skill isn't everything as it is we're trying to make a place that anytime we go somewhere, anytime we do something, people can go, "That's Brimstone Basilisk. Those guys are all right." You know, we're not here to pump out sword knights. It's not about that. We're not here to pump out knights in general. It's not about that. It's that intangible. The older guys call it our legacy. This is what we're putting out into Amtgard. This place, this thing that people have joined. They can someplace for people to be proud of where they're at. I can sit and talk about my fighting company all day. If you let me, I will. It's a group of people that, like, we're inclusive in that we have LGBTQ, you know, the alphabet soup members, as I've been told it's called. You know, we have straight players, we have gay players, we have players that are non-binary, you know, and that doesn't matter to us. What matters is that I fight next to you. Can you swing a stick next to me? Can we battle game together? Can I call you at 3 a.m. and be like, "Yo, I got a flat and I'm about a mile outside of Hagerstown, Maryland," which is, you know, Windhaven and Crystal Groves. Can any of my boys come and get me? Or the flip side of that, if we're going to go fight, can I go tear through a ditch line with my buddies? Win, lose, or draw, it doesn't matter. You know, we get to laugh about it when we're done, and it really is. A lot of companies say, like, you know, we're family. I've seen that come and go, and I've seen that kind of fail. I feel like we've captured it in our area a little better than most.
That's awesome. I love hearing the different structures. I think that's one of the most interesting things for me in all of Amtgard is how we have so many major successful fighting companies, and almost every one of them is run and set up differently. I love it. So going in, my last question, my camera battery might die. If it dies, we'll keep going. The audio comes through, so we'll be good there. But my last question for you, in looking forward now, the next 6 months, the next 12 months, is there anything you're just real excited for? Anything you want to hype up? You want to, hey, viewers, if you're listening, go check this out. Is there anything coming up that you're real excited for?
The idea is I'm Kingdom Champion in Crystal Groves right now. I'm trying to get the end. I guess it would be a non-men's tournament, but I'm not doing it as a typical tournament. I want to see a team tournament happen. When I first started playing Amtgard, 2-man, 3-man team tournaments were a thing. I definitely want to see that come back. Even if I want to try to push for Orders of the Warrior for it. I want to kind of normalize that team fighting, because that should definitely that's a skill we have. That's definitely a skill. Anybody can go one-on-one with somebody, and you can figure out how it's going to go. But team fighting kind of mixes it up a little bit. You might not have two of the greatest skilled fighters on the planet, but they've got a pretty good shot at holding their own against, you know, Warlord Spin Shot and his squire Spanky McFlorentine, right? So just something that I wanted to experiment with, see if I could get a really cool trophy out for it for first, second, third, right? And who knows, maybe it can be a thing. The other thing that we do in Blackthorn, my home park, is we have every October is Wings and Wax. COVID might make that weird, but we'll find a way around it, I promise. We do basic jugging, real basic jugging, and we eat hot wings. That's the whole event.
Perfect.
I've never had a more fun time. All I did was reeve. I didn't even fight. I reeved the whole thing, and everybody had such a blast. We're hoping to do it again this year. The Wings and Wax 2, the winging.
I like it. That sounds great. But before the show, you were talking about a wire cutter forge. You want to talk a little bit about that? You were hyping them up to me before we jumped in.
Oh, man. Yes, I do. Yogi is the man's name who runs Wire Cutter Forge. He's recently come into his own as far as making weapons, and he sells them at a pretty decent price, about $45 for a flat blade. And I could physically hear the groan from all the fighters out there that might be watching this. Oh God, it's a flat blade. Hold on. It's actually pretty sturdy. 2-pound EVA cross-linked foam. for your blade, which gives it a nice pop, good friendly stick. You can put some stank into it. You can generally trust it when you're going to go block something heavy. The real good sticky grip. So when you put your lacrosse gloves on and you go to grab that thing, you're sticking, like you're not moving anywhere. I didn't even have to use a little heads up 7-Up thing. The modified saber grip, I just bear pawed that. I grabbed it like he was going to grab a rebar stick and get to work. I chopped a couple people up pretty good with it, and reasonable prices. Really excellent product. He does all the bits and bobs that you'd expect out of a weapon shop. He does blanks. He does sword fries. He does all that stuff. So just a local guy looking to get his name out there. Quality products. I think it's awesome. Go check Wirecutter Forge.
Yeah, for sure. We'll put a link to his Facebook or his Etsy shop in the show notes down below. So if you're interested in getting any gear, go ahead and check that out. But on that note, Sir Jynx, I want to thank you so much for being on this show with me. I had a good time. Really, really enjoyed it. So if viewers, if you're watching this and you have any questions for Sir Jynx, go ahead and post them in the comments down here. I'll forward them over to him, and he can be able to come back in and just kind of chat with you a little bit more. If there's something that he said that interests you, you want to get a little bit more information on there. We are thankful that you are watching. If you made it all the way to the end of the show with us, thank you. Make sure if you haven't, hit that like and subscribe button. Make sure you get more content like this. This has been the Archive. We'll see you next time.